when you transfer a character from live action to animation, it usually turns out pretty well. I mean, take Darth Maul. In The Phantom Menace, he was obviously live action. And then you put him in the Clone Wars, and he's basically a simplified version of the Maul that you see in The Phantom Menace. He still looks pretty good. Now, it doesn't always work the other way around. Obviously, if you're watching this video, there will be spoilers. But Bo-Katan appears in this episode of The Mandalorian, episode 11. Or chapter 11, I mean, episode 3 of season 2. Bo-Katan appears in this episode. She is Duchess Satine's sister from the Clone Wars. She's also in Rebels. She was really well acted. She was a good character, and she was almost perfect. But you could tell that she was a little bit off. You could tell that she was an animated character that they tried to transfer to a live-action character, and it didn't quite go through for me. Now, it was close, but what they should have done, it was her hair color in particular, that it didn't look real. What they should have done is just picked a hair color that's as similar as possible, but isn't exactly the same as the animated character. I also think there may have been some issues with the age difference. I don't think she aged enough, but those are all minor issues. Really, I thought this episode was really good. Definitely the best of Season 2, and possibly the best of The Mandalorian so far. Now, my favorite part of this episode was probably the Imperial Remnant. That's something that we have not seen enough. We've seen the Empire at its height, and then we've seen the First Order, but we haven't seen this middle ground, which is the Imperial Remnant. It's really a galactic Cold War, is what it's called, actually. It's, you have the New Republic, and then at the same time you have what's left of the Empire, and that's the Imperial Remnant, and that's pretty interesting. So I'm glad that we finally got to see this in The Mandalorian. We saw, Imperial Warlords, but I'm not sure that really counts. The other thing that I was really glad about is they finally explained that plot hole where the Mandalorians and the Clone Wars and Rebels take their masks off as they please. They take them on and off all the time. And then in The Mandalorian, they can't take them off ever. And that's actually because they have been controlled by Death Watch, which is a very extreme group of Mandalorian terrorists. They're called terrorists. Very evil in the Clone Wars. They actually destroyed the Ming-Po village. By the way, the Ming-Po are exactly what they sound like. But they kill everybody. They destroy the village. They're not great people, to say the least. But this explains why the Mandalorians in The Mandalorian, the tribe, have to keep their helmets on all the time. It's because they're not controlled by your everyday Mandalorian. They're controlled by Death Watch. And it didn't feel like a retcon. That could have felt like a retcon, and it didn't. And I'm glad that's true. Retcons, I don't love retcons. A sequel retcon won't happen, by the way. It's never going to happen. I know some people want it to happen. It's never going to happen. That's off topic, though. This was a really good episode. I think my only other issue was the Imperial Remnant. They had a ship that didn't really look like a ship in Star Wars. It looked more like an airplane. But I'm picking at the smallest details because I thought this episode was honestly really good. I was glad that Baby Yoda wasn't still eating those eggs, or the child wasn't still eating those eggs. They went too far with that. I'm not completely sure if they were fertilized or unfertilized in episode 10, but I'm hoping they were unfertilized somehow. And still not perfect, but that's better. Definitely better. But, yeah, I thought this was a very good episode. I think, again, the Imperial Remnant was my favorite part of it. Bo-Katan was a cool character, too. She just didn't look perfect. You know what she kind of looked like? She kind of looked like a Marvel character. And that's because Marvel characters are oftentimes live-action characters who have been transferred from a comic book, and that's why they don't always quite look like a human, and that's why Bo-Katan didn't quite look like a human. She was originally a Clone Wars and Rebels character who was transferred into live action. But, again, this worked perfectly. Or the episode altogether worked perfectly. Bo-Katan did not. Um, I thought Baby Yoda was good. I thought that part where they threw him in to be eaten by that creature, and you think he was dead. I knew they, I knew that they wouldn't kill him off. I think we all knew that, but it still was startling when they threw him in and he was swallowed by it. Not not what you would expect at all. Din Djarin was, of course, cool again. The Mandalorian. Now the big news in this episode is that Ahsoka Tano will make an appearance. Most likely make an appearance. I'm going to predict episode 12 or 13 that she'll probably make an appearance because Bo-Katan tells him to find Ahsoka. I think there's a chance that episode 12 is going to be kind of a side story and they won't quite get to that. But I'll bet they get to her in either episode 12 or episode 13. Chapter 12, chapter 13. Get that mixed up. So I'm excited for that, but going back to the Bo-Katan issue, it doesn't always work perfectly when you try to transfer an animated character to live action, and I'm just a little bit worried that the same thing would happen with Ahsoka. Now, on the bright side, Bo-Katan didn't look perfect, but she wasn't creepy. And my biggest fear was that Ahsoka would look creepy. If you remember the Mortis episodes of the Clone Wars, I do not like the Mortis episodes of the Clone Wars at all. Um, they're I don't like them. But Ahsoka in those episodes, one of those episodes at one point, is captured, and then you basically see a dark side version of Ahsoka. And this was creepy, and I was kind of worried that a live action version would be similarly creepy, and it wasn't, for Bo-Katan anyway. And it probably won't be for Ahsoka. So this, from my point of view, is really good news for the season and for the series as a whole. The Mandalorian more and more is becoming a live action finale to both the Clone Wars and Rebels, which is something that I really like because the Clone Wars obviously has season 7, but it still feels like there's some unfinished business in that show. Rebels, not as much, but there are certainly some uh, open possibilities there. So I'm glad that they're kind of leaning into that in season 2. All in all, I think this was a really good episode. If you haven't watched it, why did you watch this video? But aside from that, if you haven't watched it, then you should watch it right now. It's a really good episode. I would strongly recommend that you watch it. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't. If you like this video, anyway. Like the video if you like the video. You will subscribe and like the video. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.